All right, it says that we're live. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm still warming up. Hopefully everyone's good to go. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, we are doing more pixel art today, picking up exactly from last week. All of the stuff I've been working on since last week has been directly related to the chat overlay from last week. We're doing another trial run this week. Everything should be going good. So we'll let it sit for a minute or so for the chat to start up. I know it always takes like a minute or so for everything to warm up for the first bit of the stream. Also, the overlay is not showing the incoming messages. What the heck? Here, let me try refreshing it. I'm sorry for the technical error. We're still trying to figure out. Thanks. It says error, you need to fix the video resolution. Oh, come on. Is 2560 by... Are you guys able to see the stream? Is it working for you? Because the chat overlay is suddenly broken. I don't know why. That doesn't actually make sense to me. 1 second. Oh, I see. I accidentally closed the application. 1 second. This was my fault. Allfather, thank you so much for the donation. I'm sorry that it's not showing up in the overlay. Give me 1 second while I fix it. I accidentally shut it down. So the overlay runs in a little app like this, and then I can enter in the live stream URL. So if I go ahead and grab that from somewhere. Oh my gosh, that is a lot louder. Let me change that. Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry for the delay. Thank you so much for the donation, Allfather. I really do appreciate that. Okay, let me refresh the chat again. Okay. I'm testing the overlay. All right, it's back. It's back. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Lowering the volume for that track is criminal. I love this song, but it is also a very loud one, and most of the songs are kind of chill in the background. Why is there a bone guy? Oh, because we're going to be adding a little bit more to it. Bub, hi, welcome in. Happy Labor Day. Second is first place here because I donate every time. Yeah, Allfather is a really good donator. Thank you so much again for I really do appreciate that. Okay, so, excuse me, geez, my throat's a little bit scratchy. What I want to work on today is even more pixel art. We're going to be picking up from last week. Is this your idea, by the way? I mean, I don't remember who's... I was working on skeletons for quite a while, honestly. So it's probably a combination of lots of ideas. But there's a few different sprites I want to work on. The first is that... Here, I can go ahead and show it in the game. I wish that the screen window fit the stream layout a little bit better. Because, like, look at this. When I move it over into the window, you can see this top banner at the top, the window. And I wish that wasn't visible. I really wish that wasn't. But what I want to try working on today is the particles, the rubble effects that come from when you break these. So right now it just like makes completely, it actually doesn't make any rubble pieces. And same with these, this doesn't look quite right either. That's also, what the heck? Oh, I can walk on water. So yeah, lots of problems here. Lots of problems. So I want to go into this and start making better particles and kind of fixing things up. Silksong, I am so excited for Silksong. Can't wait to get my friend Silksong. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna be very, very excited for. I'm worried about the stream health. So, are you guys able to see the stream fine? And if you are, what's the quality of the stream? Because it's giving me an error saying that my current resolution is not supported. It said expected video resolution is 1440p. But why? Why wouldn't it support 4K? Yeah, this doesn't really make sense. So I'm gonna figure out live on stream, why am I getting this error? I'm gonna ask Copilot real quick. What resolution does YouTube streaming support? I thought it supported 4K. Because it says YouTube supports up to 8K, which is kind of wild. Maybe my bitrate is wrong. You know what? I bet it's the bitrate from OBS. Now that I think about it, let me play around with that. Sorry that you guys are having to watch me debug this in real time. But the thing is, I'm still setting up so many new things with the stream. I think the problem is the bitrate, although I can't change it during the stream. Constant bitrate. Ultra low latency. I think that I can't choose ultra low latency while okay, I'm gonna try changing this right now and seeing if that changes anything. I don't really think that's gonna fix it. You never put your bitrate above 450 or 4500. Yeah, mine is a lot higher than that, so I think that that's probably part of it. Actually, yeah, it says what bitrate for 4K streaming? Yeah, it's saying things like 4500, so mine's at 6000, so let's change it to that. I don't know if this is gonna change anything. I really hope. The thing is, I'm so new to all this stuff. I say that, but I've been streaming for a while now, actually. But I think with YouTube streaming, it's still kind of new. Is it really worth streaming in 4K though? I've debated that. I'm with you. It's got its pros and cons. I don't really know. Because the truth is, I want to try it. And if it turns out that I can stream in 4K and not experience much latency, then I should do that. Because then the VODs would be in 4K. I don't think 4K is worth it. I don't know. I think that if the VOD is in 4K, that could be worth it. Because I'm trying to think about multiple users here. I personally do not watch streams in 4K, and I don't watch VODs in 4K. But some people do. And if someone is watching my video on a 4K monitor, and the stream is only in 1080p, it's gonna blow up and be stretched out and not look very good. So if I'm able to stream it in 4K and it doesn't lose any quality, your PC might not handle 4K and streaming at the same time. That's what we're testing out today. But there's only one way to find out if it works, is if I try it out myself. By the way, it runs 1440-60. Yeah, I think that it is automatically scaling things down, which is okay, but I don't know why it would do that. It said the expected video resolution is 1440p, so that makes sense that it would be scaling it down. But what I just don't understand is, why does it think that I want the video scaled down like that? There might be a setting somewhere. Sorry that you guys have to listen to me, like, figure this out. My Chrome tabs are on my old LG TV. Yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to look into this, is because someone was telling me that they watch streams on their TV, and if they do that, then it would look stretched. It probably wouldn't look very good. I'm not seeing any option to do this. Yeah, we're just gonna deal with it. So today's gonna be a 1440p stream. I hope that's okay. at least we can check and see if there's any issues with 1440p. That's a decent thing to try out. Do you still have motivation to work on the same game? I always quit after a month. Yeah, I am. It's hard, and in fact, I keep saying this. I'm planning to work on a video to talk about that. So, as you guys know, it's been a long time since I've made any videos on this channel. It's just been streaming, which is fine. I want to spend time working on streaming too. It's been good, but I want to make a video talking about how I've been iterating on the same idea for all this time, because the content from this game goes back from before this channel even. I had a channel before this one that had a lot more like Zelda-like game progress. Return to making updated tutorials. Yeah, I'd totally do that. But right now I really am focused on... Dude, I have so many different things. YouTube scales videos proportionally, meaning that it wouldn't be stretched, although it would be a little blurry. I probably would have black bars too. Yeah, I mean, that's just how resolution works, is if the original recording is recorded in 4K, it's easy for YouTube to scale it down. So if the original recording is in 4K, but you're watching it in 1080p, it can scale it down to 1080p really easily. There's no problems there. But if the original recording is in 1080p, but you're watching it on a 4K monitor, I mean, I don't think you guys realize 1080p versus 4K size difference. It's very substantial. It's very substantial. Okay, open image, a new tab. Okay. So this is the different resolutions that we're working with. 1080p is this rectangle in the corner, and 4K is this red rectangle, the whole big white rectangle. So if someone is watching the stream on a 4K TV, but my stream is only in 1080p, which is what it was before today, then it would have to stretch this rectangle all the way up to this red one. Yeah, don't you think that would cause some loss? That it would cause some blurriness? It definitely does. It definitely does. It's not much, because like 1080p, that's still a lot of pixels. 1920 by 1080, that's a lot of pixels. And when you scale it up to 4K, it still looks fine. It still looks fine. I'm not gonna act like it's a big deal, but it is still something to consider. And like, especially when you see this image here, I think it really does demonstrate how many extra pixels are involved with 4K, and I think it's important to account for that, because if it's scaled in the wrong way, it can look kind of bad. So that's just something that I'm looking out for. I have that resolution. I can still see pretty nice. I believe you. I believe you. In fact, I have a 4K monitor that I'm working off of right now, and when I watch 1080p videos, it looks fine. That is the truth. But you know, some people are more you know, nitpicky about that. DVD resolution is peak. I always wondered that, because yeah, DVD resolution is very, very small. I am gonna have to do some research to figure out why the stream's not supporting 4K, because it's supposed to. It's supposed to. So, and the problem with that is the problem could exist in OBS, or it could exist in the YouTube streaming software somewhere. So I'll be testing it out. So I have an alt account that I can make like a fake stream and test things out. What's the idea with the skeletons in the graves? Yeah, so that area is just like meant to be a cemetery area. So for now, those skeletons and graves are just meant to be decorations, you know. So this is what I was working on last week, is that I have all these different gravestones, and I really do like how these look. I think that they do look pretty nice, especially the different variations. They fit nicely together. But what I'm going to work on is some debris, because they just disappear. Make other games after Moonshire. Definitely, yeah, I really do want to. But, like, I'm learning the hard way that games take a very, very long time. So, I have a long ways to go before this game is done and out the door, because once this game is on Steam, that's the first milestone. After that, like, I'm considering making it for mobile as well, and I would also consider adding some DLC or like free DLC like Hollow Knight, depending on how successful or how much people like it. Because I really do care about this game a lot. I've been working on it for so long. I really, really love it. So, like, talking about all that stuff, let's say it takes a year to get on Steam, and then, you know, supporting that with maintenance for another year to fix all the bugs, and then releasing it on mobile. That takes like half a year of development, half a year of support. If I did a DLC, man, that would be a crazy, crazy endeavor to try and get that available on all platforms too. Those little DVD laptops. Oh, totally, yeah. When me and my family would go on car trips, like road trips, we would pack one of those and have that playing DVDs in the car. Would it be paid access or free with ads? Dude, that is so far away. I don't even know. Like, I like to think that I would follow whatever model works best for a mobile platform, but I'm so new to that. I don't even know anything about what mobile monetization is like. I do know that most apps are free, and they are monetized in-app through, like, microtransactions. I know that's standard. And I don't know how that really fits into this game's format. It's possible that it wouldn't fit at all. Do I plan on hiring people to help you with making the game complete on my own? So I do hire people. I have people that help me with pixel art. I have people that help me with testing, like Wolf, and Wolf does moderation for the chat. And then I have a few folks that help me with art and illustration. I hired, like, what do you call it? Copyright. I hired a copywriter for the Steam page, but I think I'm gonna do that on my own from now on. And I'm trying to think of all the I've hired lots of people to help me. So even though this is like solo development is a debatable term, I've hired lots of people to help me, and also like I help, or I pay for open source or paid assets from other artists, and you could argue that that's support too. And then people test the game and report bugs for me. That could be debatably development. So yeah, I am solo developing the game, but at the same time, it is I get help, and I pay for help, and I commission people to fill in the gaps for places where I might not be able to do it myself. Or really, I can do everything in this game by myself, but it would take much longer and the quality wouldn't be as good, especially in the art department. I'm decent at pixel art, and we're going to work on pixel art today, but there are people out there that are much better at pixel art than me. So if my goal is to make the best possible game with the best possible art, it's in my best interest to hire people, because there are people out there that are better at art than I am. Also, I noticed that the message delete system works in the overlay, so that's good that that's working. How's the latency with the overlay? Because this is another thing. I did change the official stream latency on YouTube from ultra low to just low. Because on YouTube, it doesn't support 4K ultra low latency. It only supports 4K low latency. The latency is okay. Let me keep talking. I mean, yeah, keep going. My goal is for it to be really short. I would really like it where about 5 seconds. I think 5 seconds is acceptable. Because this would be the trade-off. I would love for the latency to be 1 second or like instant. That would be ideal. I would also like the stream to be available in 4K, or I'd like the VODs to be available in 4K. I'd also like the code and video recordings to be available in 4K. Yeah, please don't spam. I don't really want that. It's almost possible to get that latency. I understand. Yeah, that's what I mean. Is I'm weighing all these options. I would love to have the lowest possible latency with the highest possible quality. That's what it comes down to. I didn't make it short for a really long time. Yeah, I know. The shorts, I love making the shorts, and they turn out great. But whenever I make a short, that is like a couple days of... The chat used to have 2 seconds of latency. Yeah, I think that when I had ultra low latency set, it was getting 2 seconds of latency. And that is better. And that's why I'm eager about like experimenting with this 4K versus 1080p or versus 1440, honestly. We're going to be testing it out. Because if it turns out that having 4K implemented or enabled, if it has 4K enabled and that causes latency, that might not be worth it. But if the latency is only 1 or 2 seconds, that probably would be worth it. You love my short about sound effects? Thank you. Yeah, I like that one too. Someone was pointing out that I should have added volume variance in that as well, and I definitely should have. Because I added, or did I add volume latency? What was it? It was pitch variance, and then someone suggested volume variance. That would have been nice too. Velatro, I'm interested in love to do. Yeah. I'm glad Velatro exists because that's adding a lot of nice interest in the engines. Great. How's my enemy attack system work? Let's go ahead and check that out because the logic is really complicated. So let's go over to mobs, and I think that there's the body, mind, and soul. I think this happens in system mob attack. So the mob attack happens here. And really, actually, every enemy... Let's go to, like, the slime. Slimes have an attack. Every enemy has an attack. So this enemy has a tackle attack. And I have the different definitions for it, like how long is the cooldown? It's 1 second. How much does it boost? It boosts at, like, 200, whatever that unit is. And the hitbox for the tackle is the specific body of the mob. So this is the configuration on what the attack is actually like for the particular mob, because every mob is going to have a different attack. Like Bunyip have other attacks. It's also a tackle, but the boost is different. The proximity is different. There's no cooldown on these guys. The hitbox is still body, but yeah. So these different configurations on a per enemy basis is defined in the file itself, and then this mob attack file takes that configuration. And it figures out like how much do I boost. So like I said, if I search for a boost, there's wind up boost, and then there's the attack boost. This is what actually applies the impulse for doing like the forward momentum for the tackle. It's all configured here. So everything, all the logic for attacking is configured in this mob attack file, but the specific aspects of it are handled here in like the individual slime file or the bunyip file. Whatever the enemy is, it gets configured here. You can use a library that writes to a save file. Yeah, I write my save files using a library. I think I have save, no, what was it? Data.lua, and I have a save game function. And it figures out which file to write to. It gets the info for that file, but if it doesn't exist, it's going to create the file or the folder that contains all of the save data. And actually, I think that I changed it kind of recently, where the save data is multiple files within. So if I go to the Moonshire save files, it looks like this. And sorry, it's very small. Windows is so small. The spamming doesn't get more XP. Oh, that's interesting to know. Thank you for sharing that. I was actually wondering that myself, because if YouTube was incentivizing people to spam, that would be weird. I'm glad that there's a cooldown. So yeah, spamming the chat does not help. 1 minute cooldown. That's really smart. Yeah, even if it's like 30 seconds or 15 seconds, that's a really good cooldown. When the attack is called, like when the enemy knows when to attack. In this case, the way this is handled is with a prox value. So at .prox, every attack has a proximity attached to it. In this case, it's 32 pixels is the default. But I was showing how before the proximity for the bunyip is 64, so it doubles. This is just the radius for how close the enemy needs to be to the player before it triggers the attack to function. How to round numbers down in Love2D? Yes, it's called math.floor. You're going to call like local val equals math.floor and then mob.id or whatever the value is. So this is the function you're looking for. This is a pretty common function, probably in most programming languages. If you want to round down a value, you would say math.floor, and if you wanted to round it up, you would say math.ceil, like ceiling. These are two programming mathematical concepts where flooring a float value will bring it down to the next integer, and ceil will bring it up to the next integer. Stream lag. Let me know if the stream lag is noticeable, because I think that the stream lag should hover around like 5 or 10 seconds, depending on where you're at and such. But if it is noticeably worse than it was last week, I really do want to know about that. Using VS Code without color scheme? Am I? I feel like I have some color scheme. I have the yellow, and I have the blue, and I have the green. I feel like this definitely counts as a color scheme. But I would say it is still dark mode and such. I don't like it all. Good, I'm glad to see that. Am I lagging or my Wi-Fi is trash? As long as it's not everyone lagging, because if the settings for the stream was causing lag, then that would be a problem. That would mean everyone would be seeing the lag, or most people, I guess. Do I even use Lua? I mean, it's not a good programming language for these concepts. Are you sure? Like, what makes you say that? So even though Lua doesn't have built-in like object-oriented programming, Lua is a very flexible language. That's the big benefit. Is Lua has a really flexible structure with these tables, like this. This is a table right here, but everything in Lua is a table. And that's what I like about it, is that since everything is a table, you can kind of combine the logic for lots of stuff together. And even though it doesn't have object-oriented like capabilities built into it, you can still mimic object-oriented design, and that's what I do. Is that like all of this is object-oriented design right here. Is that this bunyip file is just a bunch of bunyip-specific IDs and configuration stuff, which then gets called into this generic mob attack file. So they're still using that same sort of inherent structure that other languages have, but with the benefit of being able to use tables, which again are super flexible, and that flexibility is kind of what I'm here for. Hopefully I didn't miss that person's response for why they thought Lua was bad. I don't think Lua is bad at all. People say that it's slow. I don't think it's slow. People say that it's annoying to work with. I really don't think that it's zero to work with. Oh, the 0 to 1 indexing. That's actually a really good call out, because that bothers lots of people. So if I had a local array, and then I said my local array is initialized with the value Kyle, and the value Alex, and the value Jill, and the value Chris. So if I had this array, in most programming languages, arrays are indexed at 0, which means that array 0 would equal Kyle. But not in Lua. In Lua, this index here is index 1. So in C++ or Python, and pretty much most languages, this value would be index 0, this would be index 1, this would be index 2, but not in Lua. Lua is indexed at 1, meaning the first value is index 1, this is index 2, index 3, and so on. And that change is kind of a hard pill to swallow for a lot of programmers, because they're used to index at 1 or index at 0. And I'm the same way. When I went through a CS degree, I know all about programming at index 0. That's what I'm used to as well. So when I hate that, yeah, I feel ya. When I switched over to using Lua, Even GML starts with 0. I imagine it's unusual to find a language that starts at 1. Let me even look up what programming languages use index 1 for their arrays. So Lua, look at these languages that it's giving us. The only relevant language that is even here is Lua. Fortran is very old school. Legacy. Look, it even says legacy convention. It's saying legacy. MATLAB. I guess MATLAB is not. MATLAB is old school, but I wouldn't say that this is outdated or like not used anymore. MATLAB is still relevant. R is still relevant as well too. This is like a Python-based data language. Yeah, so actually, you know, taking a step back, I might have jumped the gun a little bit because I saw things like Fortran and COBOL, and I'm like, oh god, what sort of stuff are we working with here? But no, I'd say that Lua and MATLAB and R are modern enough technologies that it is enough to like make an argument for. What about COBOL? COBOL is a well-known and possibly widely used language, but it is old. It even says legacy. It says if it says legacy here, that's a sign probably shouldn't be using it. Same with like this legacy enterprise. I've never even heard of PL. I haven't heard of a lot of this. But if you have others programming experience, learn Lua is so fast because the new concept is just a table. But this is what I mean. If you want to learn Love2D, but the idea of index at 1 is stopping you, that is the most nitpicky, minor thing you could possibly get hung up about. Because you should be choosing languages and engines based on what you enjoy, what's good, what's convenient for you, what fits your structure. And if the index at 1 thing, if that's what's stopping you from doing it, like that's a very weird thing to get hung up about. A good programmer is able to adapt to the minor differences between each coding language. Because by the way, I don't just code in Lua. I code in TypeScript, which uses 0-based index, and I code in Python sometimes. When I worked at Microsoft, it was like C#, the .NET stack. That was all 0-based indexing. So like, I'm more used to 0-based indexing. When I switch over to Lua, it's just like a slight context switch where now I need to think, okay, when I'm doing my for loops, I need to make sure that I account for this index at 1 as opposed to index at 0. And there are actually times when I prefer it. Because have you ever noticed that there are times when you're writing a loop with a 0-based index where you have to add 1 or subtract 1, normally add 1, based on the calculations you're doing? So sometimes it's actually convenient that the index is at 1 because, like for example, if you're multiplying the index by a value, sometimes you wouldn't want to multiply it by 0, you would instead want to multiply by 1, which, you know, is more convenient to do in Lua because of this indexing thing. I don't know why they chose to do it this way, but they did, and this is where we're at. I don't mind it at all. I've gotten so used to it that it doesn't bother me. I'm used to it both ways. I kind of want to do the climbing the staircase example again, because I think that this is the best example for what indexing even means. Because I'm talking about indexing as if this is an obvious concept. So here we go. We got a little bit of a canvas here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a house, okay? And this house is a 2-story house, and it has a staircase, and it leads up to the 2nd floor. Okay? So we have 2 floors. We have this floor, and we have this floor up here. And now I have our little friend. Our little friend here. Okay. So, now, when our little character here, when our character climbs the stairs and goes to this floor, What floor is this? What floor is this? What floor is this? Because right now, he's outside. Right now, he's outside. And he goes inside and goes up the stairs. What floor is he on? And I'm already seeing in chat a variety of responses. Truly the epitome of houses. I know. Isn't it weird that some people are saying the second floor and some people are saying the first floor? Because in English I would say second floor, but in French I would say first. Isn't that so strange? No, so the difference is that in America, we would call this the second floor. And we would call this the first floor. Okay? But in like Europe or in Great Britain, for example, you would call this the first floor, and you would call this the ground floor. Ground floor. Or floor 0. So this is why indexing is important. Because in the UK, they use index 0 for their floor definitions. They use index 0. So when you go up the staircase to this floor, you are now on the first floor because they use index 0. But in the US, we do not do that. We call this the first floor, and we call this the second floor. In the US, we are indexed at 1 for the floors of our houses. So, how weird is that? We call it a parking lot? Yeah, so my country does that. There's no ground floor in America. We just call the ground floor the first floor. They are the same thing. If you go into an elevator, it would just call this, sometimes they calls it the star floor or G. But yes, it's kind of odd that first/ground, these mean the same thing in the US. Sorry, it's really hard to write with a mouse. I should actually get my tablet out and start writing with that. So what do we call the floor underneath of it? We call this, I guess, basement. Like, this is basement 1. Basement. I guess in an elevator, it might say, like, U1? Yeah, -1s. Oh, 0. Yeah, -1, exactly. Like, I did the game you said to do last time. I went through a lot of errors, and after 3 nights, I did it last week and learned how to code a combat system. That's amazing! Congrats, Superboy. That's amazing. Basement 1, Isaac. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I forgot that that's how they label it in Isaac. The negative for, yeah, the -1. That's spooky. Actually, yeah, that is weird. That, like, if this was the 0th floor, like in Europe, -1 as the basement makes sense. But in the US, like, we wouldn't call the basement the 0 floor. We wouldn't call it that. That doesn't make sense. But we also wouldn't call it the -1 floor because that doesn't make sense either. I don't. You know what? That's kind of weird. Fair point. I think the Europeans kind of have a better idea with this because I don't really know what I would call the before. I think that's kind of why it works for Lua, because in an array, you wouldn't really need to go to the -1 index unless you were doing something special. So kind of excluding 0 and 1 from this list kind of makes sense to me. We have floor lore, yeah. Well, 0 is before -1. Well, 0 is before -1. Before, I mean, before in what direction is the weird way. 0 is before -1 in the negative direction, but it's after -1 in the positive direction. This is strange. You know, I said that I was going to do pixel art today, and I haven't started yet. I think what I want to do is make the particle effects for the skeletons first. That's going to be the first thing. And as long as I can do that, then at the very least, that gives us something. So I'm trying to find, where did I store? I think it's under props and then rubble. Okay. So I have these rubble sprites. Again, very tiny, very annoying. But I'm going to have a bone type. And this is just a very, very small sprite that's going to pop out of the skeleton when you hit it. Let's make it bigger. And let's make it white. I'm actually going to follow the same shading structure as this. So we have the shaded version, and then we have the white version. I'm going to remove the corners so it looks more rounded. I'm going to make it shorter so it's not so long. I'll probably want to make this more into like a bone shard if I'm being honest. Also, I don't think it needs to be this tall. I think if it's a bone, yeah, it should be shorter like that. It doesn't need to be that tall. So I like that. And then now I'm going to bring this down here. I need a darker shade still, and we're gonna do one of these. I guess that looks okay. That's a little dark. I think I want to make some lighter colors. Yeah, that looks better. So we're gonna do a different set of shading for. That deviated a bit too much, I think. That looks okay. Maybe I can try one of these colors here. This is how I do colors, by the way, is I don't know color theory very well. I vaguely understand it, but the way I do colors is I just like eyeball it and I try to find a set of colors that looks kind of good. I think that this needs to be brighter still. That looks okay, but the weird part is that I just unintentionally made all of this more saturated than it originally was, so I don't know if I want that. I guess since it's a small particle, it should be more saturated, so I'm going to go ahead and saturate this section up here. You can go to Adjustments, Use Saturation, and we'll bump the saturation up just a little bit, and then make it lighter. Ugh. Man, these colors just do not match. I don't like that at all. I'm going to start from scratch. Actually, I'm going to get this color here. That does match. So going from this, I can add one more, like maybe like that. I think that looks okay. It doesn't really look like a bone, but maybe when it's falling off of an enemy. Color theory is only a theory. Taste matters more. That's kind of the way. That's kind of where I'm at right now too. Because really, when I started, I really tried to make it into a standard, what do you call it? A standard palette. Because if I go over here to load default palette, I talked about this last week, how I have the Lua P, what is it? The Lua P palette. All of these colors up here came from a palette that I was using for a while. All of the colors came from this palette, but eventually I just felt it too restricting. Where now what I do is I normally start with these colors. I start with these colors, but then I always just like build off of it with eyeballed like other shading, and that just gives me a lot more flexibility. At the same time though, if I do that, I run the risk of possibly making sprites that don't gel with other sprites, and that's not great, you know. But I'm gonna go ahead and call this bone good. Do that, and then now in the code I need to go over to, I think they're called rub debris. Or is it rubble? I think I call it rubble. So I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to call it bone. Shadow Y. I don't remember what this means. I don't remember what shadow Y means. So I'm going to get rid of it. I just don't remember. Rect X S makes sense. And then the sprite options are, and you get rid of all these. We only have one sprite option for now. It's just bone. And then now that this is here, Butterfly, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna go to the, what is it? The assets. gonna go to rubble. My brain is like going a mile a minute trying to process everything. So I'm gonna add this. And this is rubble bone. Whoop. Okay, so we got that. Now I need to make it so that the prop, the skeleton prop, I need to give it the rubble class bone, and then it should break a bunch of bones when I hit it. I'm gonna get rid of this sound because the sound is super bad. Some flowers in front of the graves. That's a really good idea. And actually, that works out because I have like those flowing flowers from town. Like I could definitely put these flowers. I could even make a clump of them. It would look really good. I love that idea. Okay, so I don't know why it did that. Bone, rubble class bone. You know, actually, just because I have the rubble, let me get rid of this. I think I need to make a rubble event is the thing. So let's go to rubble event. Yeah, this is the problem. So let's go ahead and make a rubble event for bone. It'll spawn 5 bones. And then it'll spawn a bunch of bones. Okay, there we go. That looked really weird. Oh my gosh. Okay, lots of things to think about here. I think that... One, the shadow on these particles is very large. I think that I need to make it smaller. So how can I do that? I can go over to rubble, and then I can do r.shadow y equals -1, and then r.shadow. Do I have shadow scale? I think I do. I can say 0. I'll say 0.8. Let's see if that changes things. Yeah, Looney Tunes physics. It was very floaty. I agree. Sorry, with my setup, the window gets a little bit weird. Hydrate. Thank you. I need that. I definitely moved it up too much. So maybe since the scale is down, I can just I can get rid of this, and we'll make this 0.7. What game do I suggest make after Pong and the other one? So I always like recommending Space Invaders or Atari Breakout. So I'll go ahead and pull this up again. Atari or Google, and then if you Google Atari Breakout, you can play it directly in your browser. This is what I recommend. I think that this is a good one because you can build off of Pong. Actually, no, this is the one that I think that you might have already like worked off of. But I like using this example because it takes a previously existing game and it just adds a bunch of features. Because like it has the power-ups, and it has all the different colors, and it has a UI, and it has like this full screen mode. It has lives. It has these things that you can catch. I think that this is an awesome example just because it takes an easy game and it gives you all these opportunities to expand on it. But then I think a game like Space Invaders is good too because you had to like shoot bullets. Space Invaders is neat because you have a character that shoots bullets at enemies, and you have a bunch of instances of a bunch of enemy objects. I think that that's a really good next step too. So let's see. Let me see how the shadows look now. The scale is very weird. I still don't like how the scale is. Is this even working? Shadow scale? Like, maybe it's still too big. Let me try this. Is it even changing? I don't even think it's changing. It feels like the shadow scale isn't changing for these. So maybe it's busted. So it has the tween, the shadow scale. Oh yeah, it is busted. It is busted. Because shadow scale is a scaling factor based on the jump. Actually, I'm going to see if I can explain this well. So look really closely at the rubble pieces that fly off here and look at their shadows. The shadow is going to grow and shrink as the particles bounce. Did you notice that the shadows were like shrinking and bouncing as it bounced? That's the bug here. Yeah, so like they're bouncing with the sprite as it goes up and down. That's what I want. I want that. But the problem is that it's not accounting for any sort of like fixed scaling. So if I say rubble dot shadow base or shadow base scale, shadow scale. I'm gonna make this the regular one, and I'm gonna call this shadow scale factor. And then now, anytime in this file where I talk about shadow scale, I'm going to instead call this shadow scale factor. Whoops, shadow scale factor, and it's going to use these both. It's going to use both of these. So now I need to go over to shadows, and find the rubble. And instead of drawing it using shadow scale, it's going to use it shadow scale times b dot shadow scale factor. So this is the funny part, is that it's using two different factors to determine the scaling of these shadows. The shadow scale factor is used for the bouncing effect, like the bounce as it goes up and down. That's what it does the shadow scale factor for. And then the shadow scale is like a base scaling, so I can scale down the bone shadow and do it there. Yeah, thank you for taking that mod action, Wolf. Thank you. Then we're gonna go ahead and try this. What this is gonna do is the shadows should still get that bouncing effect, but the overall size should be smaller. Awesome. So it worked. I made it too small. Obviously, look, like it's too small, but I can still fix it. All I have to do is go over to the rubble, go over to, where was it? The bone. We're gonna make this 75 here. How multiple files work? Yeah, that's a tricky concept. That's hard to get used to. I'll show you in just a second. So if I do that, that's close. I'm gonna make it a little bigger and then raise it up. So it might actually be like 8.5 and then r.shadow y equals negative 0.5. It really doesn't need to change very much. We're gonna go through multiple files in just a moment because that's a really good question. I like talking about that. Also, that sound is ridiculous. Wow, what the heck? It really raised it up way too much. I didn't think I raised it up that much. Also, we're gonna make this 0.9 and then it's gonna be like 0.2 for some reason. There's like some kind of... There's actually some weird multiplicative thing going on here. I don't know why. It's because it's not being scaled. Look, it's a fixed value. That's why. So I'm glad I discovered this, because what's happening here is shadow y is a pixel value, like 1. But the problem is, at really small resolutions, it might be more or less than 1. It needs to be multiplied by the scale. So where does it talk about scale? Scale end at scale x, not end at scale x. There's like a global scale value that I need to account for here. P dot shadow y. I really don't think. I think I actually have an issue here. I think that all of these shadow y values are not accounting for the scale properly. I want to see if I can demonstrate this. So, I showed just a second ago how under this configuration, sorry, I'm thinking about a lot of different things at once. Under this configuration, the scale of the shadow. Look, so the shadow scale is too high, like it's too high up. You can see that the shadow is too far up the screen. But I think that if I shrink this down, is it still doing that? It's actually fine. I just don't understand why. I'm a little confused. Sorry, I'm thinking about a lot of different things at once. I'm trying to figure out why it's scaling up so much, because my main issue with files is how do I get the code to run in main.lua file? Yeah, I'll help you out in 1 second. I know that I'm kind of sidetracked with a few different things. That does not make sense to me. That does not make sense to me. So if it was 0, what's that? Maybe I am overthinking this. I think I am overthinking this. I think that what I actually need to do is it needs to be +1. Like this. Or maybe 0.5. Sorry, I've been fixated on shadows for the past, like, 10 minutes. It looks good. What's the problem? I know it's such a minor problem. The problem is the alignment of the shadow with the sprite. Now, that just doesn't make sense. Why is it only going down by that much? I'm really confused because I'm making micro adjustments to the shadow position, and I know it's hard to see on the stream, but it's not changing as much as I thought it would. It's like barely changing at all. Perfectionist working, yeah, exactly. And actually here, I think that scaling thing I fixed was really the main issue, and now I need to revert it back. That was the main issue. Yeah, okay, so I think that the main issue was that shadow scale factor thing that I fixed. Let me make sure that... because I want to make sure I can check this in. Yep, that's good. Yes, this is good too. Okay. Fix rubble shadow scaling. Okay, sorry about that. Now, what I want to talk about is someone was asking about multiple files in the same project, which this is a really important concept that applies to not just Lua, but all programming projects. Is every piece of software is going to have an entry point. In this case, in Lua, or in Love2D, the entry point is main.lua. So we have this main.lua file, and this is where the game starts. When you run the game, it runs this file. So it's totally possible to put every single line of code into main.lua, and then it would run. That is perfectly possible, and that's perfectly acceptable. But the reason why you wouldn't do that is because if you put every line of code into main.lua, it would get very large. And like I show this every stream, I have some files like new UI that are incredibly huge. Like this file has 2,900 lines. This is just one file. So imagine putting every file, all of these files, imagine loading all of them directly into main.lua. It would be ridiculous. It would be way too much content for one file. So that's why you split it up into multiple files. And the way that works is it's still just loading everything into this one file. You can still kind of think of it as main.lua is the one and only file being run. Okay, so this is the only file being run. But what's happening is that you are requiring other files, especially in my case, I have this. I have require game. You require game start. So I have this file called game start, and this is literally just a file that starts up like all the Windows stuff and all the library stuff. So in my love.load function, I require game start. I just provide the path to that file, and then I call this function. So game start has this function game start, and then it just returns it. Or actually, no, this is making a bunch of global functions. But essentially, when you require game start, it takes all the code that's in this file and adds it to the program. So it adds this function game start. It adds this function set scale. It adds this function check window size. It adds this function re-init size. So since all these functions now exist in main.lua just by calling this file, I called this file, and now all the functions that were defined in game start now exist in main.lua. So I call game start, and the funny thing is game start, this function, calls other requires. So game start is requiring a bunch of utilities, and it's also requiring, or it's calling this full init, which, like, look, it's initting all of these files. It's loading all of this stuff into memory right at the get-go. And that's why there's a loading bar. I don't think I can show it on stream because it's on the other monitor, but there's a loading bar that pops up whenever the stream starts, whenever the game starts. This is still peak content. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I appreciate you saying that. What did I miss? Not too much. We're just going through some small coding stuff and some programming and or pixel art stuff. So a variety of different things made to the stream. I've been watching for 2 or 3 months. Just got a laptop covered in Moonshire, and also got your BFF to try it. Both love to keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Riften. Thank you. How do you connect Steam with Love2D? That is a hard question, and it's I'll give you an easy answer. Okay, here's my simple answer. Is that there's a library for it. So, there's this library called Lua Steam. I think Balatro actually used this. Yeah, Balatro used this as well. So, this is a really common library for Love2D, where if you're making a Love2D game, you can install this library, connect it with your code. It's not the most straightforward process, but it does work, and this is how I connect it with Steam. So I use this library in order to do things like get the friends list and trigger achievements. Like, I had to use this to make achievements work. And maybe when my game comes out, they'll add my game to this list. Because when I started using this, I actually talked to the developer, or one of the developers, and he asked me what game it was, and he said he would add my game to this list, but he didn't. So I'm guessing that he didn't add it just because my game's not out yet. It's still being worked on, so there's not really a reason to put it on there yet. Because when I started using it, Balatro wasn't out yet. Balatro didn't exist, so it wasn't on this list at all. You found the library inside the game files? Yeah, I mean, pretty much every game you can decompile it in some way. The current Steam build is a little bit too easy to decompile. We talked about that on Steam. So there's going to be some obfuscation in the next Steam release where it's not going to be just a extractable thing. But I'm not going to fixate on that too much, because even AAA games, even really good, like big name, huge, full-scale games, they get decompiled and the code can get stolen. So if it's a futile effort for me to try and stop that. If people are going to steal the code, they're going to steal it. If you're out there, please don't steal my code. Like, I have a lot of open source projects on my GitHub. You can use any of this project, any of these projects, any of this code. Anything that's public and open source, you can use. But if I have a project that's private and you're extracting my code and stealing it, please don't do that. I spend a lot of time on that code, and it's not cool when it just gets stolen. I understand it's really easy to steal, but I don't really want that. If you're just like experimenting or checking things out and exploring, that's not a problem. I do the same thing. But can you study it? Sure, you can study it. Just don't blatantly steal. That's my main thing. The reason why I'm so uncomfortable with it is because there are bad actors out there that will use it for nefarious purposes, even though 99% of people who do look at the code will not use it for nefarious purposes. They're just looking at it out of curiosity, because looking at this code is fun. It's fun to look at other people's code and seeing how things work on a fundamental level. But there are people out there that use that to, like, I don't know, for immoral personal gains. Immoral personal gains. Sapphire, thank you so much. I've been rewatching some old vids of yours, and they're so good. This stuff is eye-opening to future game devs. Appreciate your content. Thank you so much. Amazing. Thank you for the donation, Sapphire. But I never shared it to steal anything. Yeah, I understand. But it's no big deal. If you keep it to yourself, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But on a fundamental level, I have to ask. Like, generally, I don't really like it when people do that, just because it opens the door to nefarious activity. I understand that you say that you're not going to steal it or you're not going to use the code for anything bad, but like, people change their minds. The temptation might be there. Like, this happens to people where they say, I'm not going to do anything bad. I'm just going to download the code. I'm just going to look at it. I'm not going to steal it. Or actually, this is a better example. College students, people in programming classes. This is what happens. Is the professor says, you are not allowed to look up code for this assignment. Like they'll assign a coding project. He'll say, do not look up projects, open source projects online to study them for this. Please use your own knowledge to do this. And you might say, well, that's not fair, because in the real world, you would go to these open source projects to study them. You would study them and implement their ideas into your own projects, and that's how open source works. But the reason why you really shouldn't be using that is because it opens up the temptation to just take it. Because you're going to get stuck on your own problems, and you're going to think to yourself, well, Kyle figured that out for MOONSHIRE. Maybe I could just take a glance over to what he did, and then just take that one little section. No one has to know. It's all I'm saying is that there are moral ways of looking at other people's code. I look at other people's code all the time. And there are moral ways to do that, and there are moral ways to use open source projects, and there are, like, you can do all of this stuff completely legitimate. No problems at all. But the reason why I'm so hesitant to, like, encourage that is because once you start doing that, it opens up the eventual possibility of it getting a little bit nasty. And I don't really want that. I'm a good guy. I know you are. I know you wouldn't ever steal it. Math.floor is lowering 1.4 to 0. Do you know why? Yes. Math.floor always lowers the rounding to the... Oh, to 0. Sorry. I misunderstood that. Math.floor is lowering 1.4 to 0. Do you know why? There's no good reason why that would be happening. The only... So this is what I want you to do. I think, Krish, that it is not lowering 1.4 to 0. Because if you typed in local val equals math.floor 1.4, if you typed in this, I can say with 100% confidence that this will return 1. There is no reality where this returns 0. So what I think is happening is that the variable that you have in here, like my variable or my value, local my value equals 1.4. So this is the same thing as what we functionally were just doing, is that 1.4 math.floors down to 1. My suggestion for you is that I think that whatever variable you're using in this math.floor, I don't think it's actually 1.4 like you're saying it is. I think that its value is something different. So double check the calculation that you're putting into the variable, and in fact, manually put it in here. You can double check to see, is this actually a problem with math.floor? Because I don't think it is. I think that if you actually manually plug in 1.4 into this function, it will give you a result of 1. But if you're using a variable and it's giving you a result of 0, that indicates that the variable is not actually storing 1.4. If you're getting 1.4, that sounds like the distance, the diagonal movement calculation, like the square root of 2. That makes me think that your calculation up here for whatever my value is might be a little bit off. Have I ever used Godot? Yeah, I downloaded it and I've tried it, but I've never really made a project or done anything substantial with it, so a very, very surface level understanding. But contextually, as a concept, I think that Godot is amazing because it's open source, 3D, it's got a whole bunch of support, lots and lots of people are using it. So how do you get the code to run after you require it? Also, I was told to make variables, tables, local, and files, so if another file needs to access a variable, how do you access it under the require? Awesome questions all around. So let me see if I can explain this a little bit better. When you require a file, in this case, I'm requiring game start. It is literally, quite literally, taking every line in this file. It is quite literally taking every single line in this file, selecting all of it, copying it, and replacing this line with all of that code. So all of the stuff, when I require that game start file, it's loading all of this. Like that. So all these functions, game start function, this full init function, all of these are all global functions that now just exist in love.load. And now that those exist, I'm able to call those functions. That's what's happening here, is that this game start function is being called. So even though this code exists in game start, this game start function, all of this code exists in a different file that's different from main.lua. Since I required this file in main.lua, that gives me the option to then call that game start function, because all of that code that was in gamestart.lua just got directly required into main.lua. And since these are defined as global functions, they are now available throughout the whole file, throughout the whole program, once you require it. But like you were saying, it is good practice to make things local. And I do that as well, especially when it comes to inheritance properties. So let me find a good example of this, of where things are requiring other files. Probably mob. I think that there is a require here. So this is a little bit more of a complex example. But this is, since you asked about local variables, this is what I do. This is a more proper way of requiring and using multiple files. So this mob file needs to access a bunch of surrounding files. Like, for example, in this exact scenario, this mob file needs to access one of these soul files. And the way it does that is it requires the exact path. In this case, like if we were working off of the slime class, this would be slime, and it would give us the path source/mob/soul/slime, and we would require that file. And if we go over to slime, This is what that looks like. So this file is getting required directly here. But you can see that the way I'm doing it is different. I'm requiring this file and setting it equal to set sol. So I have this local variable called set sol, and it's being set equal to a require call. That's different than what I was doing in main.lua. Here in main.lua, I was just requiring the file as a whole. And yeah, it literally copies every line of code from game start and just puts it here. Mob is doing it in a different way, where I have this variable called set sol. I make a new local variable and I set it equal to the require. So it's not like this require, like before, it's not putting it into the whole program. It's putting all of this code from the slime class into set sol. It's all contained in this local variable. It's much cleaner. So this stuff, it's a local function too. It's not a global function. So it defines this local function for slime, all of this slime specific stuff, and then it returns this set sol function. So when you set sol equal to require, it's setting it equal to set sol. So essentially, long story short, this slime.lua is exporting this local function, which is then being picked up by this local variable, which is then being called, which returns data into this mob object. So that's how mob gets set, is that mob is created, given a class, it picks up the set sol function from the correct sol file, calls that set sol function with the past data of mob, and then reapplies it to itself. And that is how my local functions work. So this is a complex example of requiring stuff, and this is a simple example of requiring stuff. And genuinely, when you are working with this, starting out with all your projects, just do it this way. In fact, like, you don't need to have multiple different folders. Just have your main.lua and have one file next to it. Have main.lua and have player.lua, and then require player.lua. And then all of the code that exists within player.lua, well, I don't have a player.lua anymore, but all the code that exists inside of your player.lua would just exist in your main.lua now, as if it does. But it's so essentially you can use these multiple files as an organizational tactic, even though it's not really functionally doing anything different. It's just loading it all into your main.lua, but it organizes your folders. It organizes your files. Coding in my coding stream? I mean, yeah, it's coding in the pixel art stream, because I call this the pixel art stream, but really I'm doing a lot more coding than I initially said. I found the problem. Awesome! I'm glad to hear it. Out of curiosity, was I on the right track where it was more of a problem with the calculation to reach the 1.4? Because that's what I think it would be. Is that I think it would just be a small typo with like the square root calculation, as opposed to a problem with the like math.floor function call. I think that you were doing the math.floor function call correct. I'm wondering if your Unity course is updated. Yes, the Udemy course still is updated to latest. It works with latest Love 2D. Even though that it says like it hasn't been updated since 2021, I think all the content is up to date. It still gets reviews. I still check it. So it's still up to date. All right, gotta go bye. Thanks for stopping in, Typical Flapjack. Also, I love your name. It's a really good name. Let's do nested loops now. Let's see. Where would I have nested loops? Where would I have nested loops? I would have nested loops in my tile states. Tile states. This is actually a pretty good example because it's a very simple example. Look, there it is. There's a nested loop right there. It's creating like a matrix. Technically my screen is made up of pixels, so it's still pixel art stream. That's very true. Yeah, exactly. It's a 4K stream. There's like, I don't know how many pixels are in 4K. There's a lot of them. Everyone, place your bets on how many pixels exist in a 16:9 4K monitor. 4K monitor, 16:9. how many total pixels are there? I'm gonna guess like 100,000? 8 million, that's a better guess than mine. Yeah, 8 million. Yeah, 8 mil. You were right. I was so off. I said 100,000, like just off the top of my head. Yeah, it's 8 million pixels. So that's a lot of pixel art. Starting with I = 1. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that this game map is organized with an index of 1. And so it makes sense for me to start my loops with an index of 1. But anyway, someone was asking about nested loops, and the way that this particular nested loop works is, I'll actually use pixel art to describe this so it can tie into the theme of the stream. I'll make this 64 by 64. Now, let's say that we were working on the tile states and working on this iterative for loop. This for loop is iterating through every pixel from left to right, and this for loop is iterating through every pixel from top to bottom. So I can actually go through in this pixel art program what that looks like. So if I put a big dot over each of these squares where this loop is running, it's going to run this pixel, then this pixel, then this pixel, and then this pixel, and then yeah, so this for loop just completed. It went through the first column, and then now I = 2, it's going through the next column. It's going through this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, and back again. I = 3, and then this for loop again, it's going to go from top to bottom at I = 3, this one, this one, this one, and then this one. And then finally, I = 4, it's going to do this loop one more time, and it looks like boop, 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 boop. So it goes through this process to create this matrix of data that correlates to the different tile states. And if I go ahead and show that, I can draw what the tile states even look like. Tile states. And it really is just iterating through each one. I accidentally added something to this file. Oh, whoops. Yeah, that's not real. Let's just undo this. Bro. Okay. Oh. No. Oh my gosh, look, where did this come from? This wasn't here a second ago, was it? I can't see like my full list of files anymore because it's covering it up. I don't remember it doing that, but maybe it was. Okay. So now that that's there, sorry, that took a second. So I was trying to demonstrate. Oh, that's the wrong one. But literally the same concept that I was just drawing, where you have all these different dots, and all of the different dots are correlating to different calculations for different tiles. It's doing that for loop, that nested for loop, to reach every tile and run a calculation on it. But how do we get one sprite in a sprite sheet in Love2D? I tiled the grid and it didn't work, or I use it wrong. In my case, I use a library, so I have a library. Nope. I have a library called Animate that I'm using. This is an old library, but I do like it. Library Animate. So in this file, this is on GitHub, by the way. This is from 2011. Oh my gosh. What this file does is it splits your sprite sheet into all of the different frames, and it handles the like iterative process of playing each animation frame. They just appeared after I clicked a file in the source changes. Thank you for checking. I wonder if... And they're not there now. Is it because... Oh, it's because I had this. It's because I had the side-by-side opened. I didn't know that I did that. Yeah, okay, that's funny. I didn't know that was a feature. So if you have this view open, where it's showing the like before and after of a commit, it adds these extra controls at the top. And that was screwing me up. I knew animate from my tutorial. I thought it was just for animations. Yeah, it is. It is just for animations. That's it. You wouldn't... I mean, I'm not sure I understand what you're referring to then, because you would use animate to handle multiple frames in the same image, but I don't know why you would have multiple frames in the same image if you weren't animating it. Yeah, the devlogs just take a long time. I'm trying to find a way to make them a bit more efficiently. The program is awesome now that updated for years and used by many people. Yes, totally. I showed this on stream not too long ago. It was the oldest code I have in my repo is show. Oh no, I think there's an older one because this one's from 2007. That's very old. That's very, very old. But I think I have an older one. From 2005. I mean, 2007 is pretty close. Maybe it was this one. Actually, I think it was. I guess 2007. Like that is pretty dang old now that I think about it. 18 years. So this is pretty old. Every time I try to make music, I accidentally make music that already exists. It's a curse. That happened to me when I was first learning music production. I would always write little songs, and they would always turn out to be the Office theme song. The theme song from The Office. Every time I would write a little song on piano, it would always turn out to be the Office theme song. So I feel your pain. It's just because your mind has these songs internalized. So when you're writing things or playing songs on whatever else. How do you find out? If you're referring to the music, I don't really know. For me, it's just that like I start writing a little melody, and I'll be like, oh, actually, it turns out that I was inspired by a different song, and I can't really use that melody because it already exists. But this file here, it handles the serialization process. Earlier in the stream, someone was asking about saving data. So all of the data is stored in a Lua table, and then this file here converts the table into a string, and then it writes, and then my code writes that string to a Lua file in the save data directory. But I do want to change the save data to not be Lua files anymore. Right now, all the save data is saved in these Lua files. Like, I can just open this up and show it. It's literally like, I have the white die, I have the red die, I have this weapon, so it's just like every item that you have. And then, but the problem is, I think I want to change away from using Lua files for the save data. I like using Lua files because it makes it very easy to load the data back into the code. But the problem is, I think that when you have a bunch of Lua files sitting around, it opens up the possibility for malicious scripting. So it's probably better for me to store this data as JSON instead. If the data was stored as JSON, then it's basically just string data that you can't really script. It's harder to make it malicious. It can still be malicious, but a raw Lua file, I think, has the more possibility of changing, of being some kind of bad script. I think I said it was moving to JSON. Yeah, I remember talking about that before. When I will learn to use tables, begin to hate Python classes because how easy tables are in Lua? Maybe. So there's pros and cons to all of this stuff. Lua has tables, and the benefit of tables is that they are super loosey-goosey, and you can kind of do whatever you want with them. They are so loose. and very, very easy to work with. But that comes with a big caveat, is that if the format of all of this data is loosey-goosey, you don't really know with certainty what type of data is where it is, that means that you could run into problems where the data isn't the type that you think it's going to be. And that can cause crashes. For example, if I have local var equals Kyle, and then I say print var times 2, this is going to crash the game, I think. Something along these lines, because you can't run arithmetic on a string. This is a string Kyle, and if you multiply Kyle by 2, like it doesn't really know what to do with that, so it just crashes. So the reason why strong typing is nice in Python is because, like, in Python, or I think Python, in lots of languages they have strong typing where you would say local string var equals Kyle. And then, since this has strong typing, var, it would never allow you to run arithmetic. If you ever typed var times 2, it would just underline this in red. It wouldn't even let you run the program because it's like, oh, you're trying to do something stupid here, bro. You can't do this. You gotta fix this first. Meanwhile, in Lua, you don't have that luxury. Everything is so loose that you have to wait for a crash before you can kind of really know. I'm sure that's not true. In fact, I bet there are some real-time, like, code analyzers that help catch compile issues, but I don't have that set up. I don't really think that would be very useful, because most of the crashes, like this, I think this is the thing, is that since Lua doesn't compile, it's like run through an interpreter. I don't really think there's an easy way for you to find compile issues because they don't really have any. You don't really compile it. I will not abandon Python classes nor Python itself. I like it more than Lua. I think most people do. Python's really good. I love Python. Python is more widely supported. It's more widely used. And I think that it, as a language, it's more approachable. I shouldn't say it's more approachable, but it's more structured. It has classes, it has inheritance, it has strong typing, I think. I think this is what it is you don't have to say string, but after a variable is initialized with a string, I don't think that you can change it after that. Maybe I'm making that up. To know when you did something wrong, you have to wait until Lua runs the code. That's the impression that I get, is that since it's interpreted, it has to be interpreted first. I don't think of Python as a gaming language, but more for research and big data. I think that's generally how most people see it, because what game engines are out there that use Python, it's not very widely used. Like Pygame uses it. I'm sure there's some bigger engines that can script with it. I bet there's some engines that support it, but Python as a gaming language, I don't really see it that way. I do see it with big data in like R, or any of the, I don't know, web scraping or anything involving databases might be that. Learning acoustic. I love playing guitar. I have an electric guitar, but I play my acoustic a lot more often than that. So what was I working on before? I could go back to work on the bone. I think I should. So this is the bone. Let's make another bone. Because the benefit of my debris system is that you can have multiple different sprites of the same debris. So if I have this bone sprite here, I'm going to make like, what should it be? It could be like this maybe? Yeah, like that. That looks good. It's like a little femur. So this is going to be bone 2. It's under rubble and bone. I'll call this bone 2. That's very creative. So now that bone 2 is there, I can go over to my assets, to the bone, and we're going to add sprites.rubble.bone2, and adds that. I'm going to go over to rubble for the bone, and then we need to add the sprite options bone 2. So with that, any bone boss type? That sounds interesting. I would love to have a skeleton boss. I should turn off the tiled states after this too, because they're kind of annoying, but there should be multiple types of bones now. And there are. We got this one, we got this one. So that looks okay. So first of all, the way that it bounced was really weird. It was like slow motion, awkward. I'm gonna see if I can fix that a little bit. Definitely doesn't need to jump this high. The glass breaking sound, I know, is so weird. It's like the character from SpongeBob who has glass bones and paper skin. So I'm gonna make the jump height. Oh, whoops! That was just the starting height. Let's make the starting height even less than that. And then this one, the jump height, 22 as a minimum. This makes sense, but it needs to go slower or lower, like 40, maybe even less than that. 48. Oh yeah, I was supposed to turn those off. It still looks kind of bad. I think that I need to make the lowest one less. Like, the lowest amount should be 6. Like that. And then highest 18, 30. How do I handle my physics? Do I use a library or the inbuilt stuff Love2D provides? I use the built-in physics. So Love2D has a box 2D-like physics engine built in. And I do use a wrapper class. Like, I have this library called Winfield that wraps it and makes it a little bit easier to work with, but it's going to be outdated soon, so I can't really recommend it anymore. I would recommend just using the built-in Love2D physics. It does work really well. And in Love 12, they're trying to make it a little bit easier to work with, but really, once Love 12 comes out and Winfield becomes deprecated, I'm going to try and make a new wrapper class that I can open source and share with people, because I really like Winfield, but there's a few big problems with it, the main one being that it's not supported anymore, and that it won't work with the next instance of Love2D. Oh, that was fine. I think the problem is that it's just slow. Like, all of this is slow. I don't think the problem is the height, I think it's just really, really slow. So let's try to make the rubble pieces a little bit faster. Because I think it just uses a flux. But what's the rise time and fall time? Rise time and fall time. Man, the way I coded this is really jank. Yeah, this is weird. I don't like this calculation I wrote. But it's okay. We'll just do this. This is gonna make it move a little bit faster. I'm just gonna do this to all particles, not just the bones. That looked too uniform. I like that. That looks good. It's a little bit. I might take it a bit too far though. A bit too far. Winfield won't work with the next rendition of Love2D. Why is that? Because they are changing the format of Love2D's physics module, where they're simplifying it and removing some of the... Because the problem with Box2D and Love2D is that there's a lot of different components. There's a lot of different moving parts. And to help with that, in Love 12, they're simplifying it. But since they're simplifying it, that means that the code from Winfield won't really be fully compatible, and some of the calculations won't work quite right. It probably could be adapted pretty easily, but the statement still stands. Winfield won't work once Love 12 comes out. And if you go to the GitHub page for Winfield, it hasn't been updated for a long time. It's a completely archived project. It was archived in 2021, and it hasn't been updated in 7 years. So this is old code, and when it's interacting with stuff like the physics engine that's changing on a somewhat regular basis, it kind of does need regular updates. So yeah, especially once Love 12 comes out. Really, people have been telling me on the Love2D like Discord that it's gonna be broken. Like, they've been saying it's gonna break for a long time, but it still hasn't. And you know what? It is possible that when Love 12 comes out, maybe it won't break. But I've been told personally by the developers that it is going to break once Love 12 comes out, so I'm gonna trust them on that. Since that's the case, I've stopped recommending it. I still think it's the most convenient way to work with physics in Love currently, but it's going to change soon, so I don't really think that anyone should really be investing time into that as it currently is. Okay, I think that's pretty good. The only thing I'm gonna do is make it bounce a little less high. Or actually, I'm gonna make the variance higher. So minimum of 6. And oh, this is just the starting height, I think. Oh, this is the direction. Oh, that was just the direction, not even the height. I see. So I actually I want to change this back to being kind of wide. It can still be small. So 6 and then like 18, because it was too concentrated around the middle. That was the problem. This is what I need to make more variances. This needs to be a variance of like 10 to 36. That's pretty good. Okay, I think that this will make it look a lot better. But your Lua course gave me the confidence code. Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. Make sure you saw my things. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you so much for posting, Kevin. I'm glad that the content was helpful. Do I like Cult of the Lamb? Yes, I love Cult of the Lamb. I really love Cult of the Lamb. I played Cult of the Lamb on PS5 when it came out, and I want to replay it again because it was buggy on PS5 when it came out. That looks a lot better. That looks a lot better. I need to make the scale of these shadows. Actually, I can just make the bones a little bit more consistent. So let's do that. But yeah, I love Cult of the Lamb. One of my favorites. So we're gonna just change it back to this. So that should make that look a little bit better. And then I'm gonna make the shadow position a little bit different too. Or the scale, yeah, the scale can go down to like 0.9. It really doesn't need to change that much. Okay. I keep saying I'm supposed to... Here, I'm gonna turn off the tile states before I forget again. There we go. Let's get that out of our face. Might try and make my own library outside of Love.Physics? I'd say go for it. I think it'll be really complex because physics it's hard. It's hard. I think it would be cool to experiment with this. Experiment though. Jeez, I'm stuttering a lot. I'm sorry for that. I think it would be fun to experiment with though. So I definitely think you should try it. The thing about physics engines, though, is that it is kind of a solved problem where, like, there's all of these very minor considerations you need to think about with physics. And Box 2D being such a long-standing and widely used program, they have solved all of these issues already. So if you made your own physics engine, it would be a lot of reinventing it would be a lot of reinvention of the wheel. But sometimes that's okay. Like my game reinvents the wheel in a lot of cases. Okay, I like how that looks. The shadow is too small. I still overdid it with the... like this, that would be better. I'm gonna have some McDonald's breakfast watching this. Cool! Coincidentally, I'm gonna get some McDonald's in 15 minutes once the stream's over. Or I guess like 17 minutes. Pygame has no built-in gravity, so I made my own. Cool. It has no built-in gravity. I bet it has a physics engine, though, and the physics engine would have the gravity, because the physics in Love 2D is also built into the Box 2D like physics engine, where you can define... Let's see, where would that be defined? Game start, world... Yeah, so the way you define gravity is right here. I haven't tried this. Let's see what happens. So I can give my game gravity. Let's give my game gravity of 10 going down. I actually don't know what's gonna happen. You can see it. You can see it. Look, everything's moving downwards. Very slowly. Okay, let's speed it up. Let's make it -100. So now everything's gonna rise. 10 times faster than that. There we go. So this is what this is what low gravity looks like in Moonshire. Those particles don't have the same physics. Make Moonshire Monday, yeah, exactly. but Pygame has cool collision checker. Cool. For me, collision detection is the more important aspect. That's some strong wind. That is so funny you say that. I should have a level with wind. Dude, I could make a windy level by just doing that. Did it? Why is it still going up? Oh, that was the particle world. So, let's add some strong wind. 200. So this is gonna push us to the right. It's freaking windy. That's a funny idea. And chat just delayed the release by 3 months. Oh no. I think that's a really good idea though. That would be easy to add. You know what I should do is I should put this in the cloud area so that you can like get pushed off the side. Kevin, thank you. Forgot to mention you inspired me to start my own game. My 11-year-old daughter is even helping with the art. That makes it extra special. That is so cool. Thank you for the donation and thank you for posting, Kevin. Appreciate that. Super, super nice of you. Good luck with your game. That sounds awesome. It's really fun to make games with other people, so I'm glad that you're able to do it with your daughter. How if I did fix pixel jittering boiling in Love 2D? Very curious. Pixel jittering. So, the way I fix pixel jittering is it never started until I tried rounding the position of things. So, I never experienced any sort of jittering or stuttering with like the objects or the camera. So there's a few things I think that could cause that. First is the camera. Make sure that your camera allows sub-pixel movement, because you will get pixely, or you'll get like juddery pixels if, well, oh, I remember now. Did I ever fix that? Did I ever fix that? I haven't thought about that for so long. You know what? I'm not going to be able to see it. I'm not going to be able to see it because this is in 4K. I'm looking really closely. Let me open up the magnifier too and see if we can see it. Because this is going to be extra hard, this stream, because it's playing the game in 4K. So there's a lot of pixels. There's a lot of pixels here. So let me try. I don't. Oh, you can kind of see it on his face. Yeah, I like pointed at my screen like a child. Look at the rim of his face, like the black border of his face. You can see some like very minor stretching, like as it readjusts the pixels. It's super hard to see, guys. I'm sorry that it's hard to see, but when the player comes to a stop, it does kind of like shift the pixels slightly. What are you using gravity for on the top-down game? Oh, good question. So I'm using gravity for these particles. Actually, no, I'm using it for the big particles. Where would that be? For the explosive blocks. Let me think of how I can show this. So there is gravity in the particle events. What would that be? I'm trying to think of a good example because I could put an explosive rock here. So I'll put this one under graveyard. Export that. I'm going to show you what I use the gravity for, because it's kind of a subtle effect. So these rocks down here, you can break them with a certain weapon. Let me grab the lightning rod. So you can break objects with the lightning rod. And so if you look really closely, when I break this block, it's gonna shoot off a bunch of particles that like leave the screen. And those particles have gravity, so watch really closely. So those ones that like went off screen, not these blue ones. These blue ones I still need to work on. But watch the brown ones that like go off screen. They move with an arc that follows like a gravity arc. So watch it again. Yeah, like that one. You can see the gravity arc of those particles. And that's what I use gravity for. That's what the particle world is for. So there's two worlds actually in my game. There's the real world that like all the objects and stuff are in. And then there's the particle world. This is the stuff that has gravity that like flies off screen in an arc. Add a gun weapon? Probably not gonna do that. But interesting idea. It reminds me of the gun weapon in Another Crab's Treasure. That's a funny idea. And really, I think that something like that would work well in the game because I already have like an assist mode. How to make the game what app? It's called Love2D. But it's a combination of lots of different apps like Sprite and Tiled and VS Code and I don't know, whatever else I'm using for like music. So Audacity and FL Studio. You might find these rocks? Yeah, you definitely would. I think I have the rocks set up in this room right now. Yeah, I have them right there. So this would probably look really good if I break this with a lightning rod. Whoops, I didn't mean to save. It put out my torch. That's weird. It put out the light. That's so weird. I'm not supposed to do that. Speaking of satisfying, I think I added volume variance for this too. And satisfying, found a bug? I mean, my game has all kinds of bugs. The thing about bugs is that it's really hard to keep track of all of it, and you have to prioritize things. I like this song, but I think that my recording of it has weird sound effects. Yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead. How did I make the light effects? Yeah, the light effects are made with shaders. So let me show that real quick. I think I'm gonna redo all the shaders again, because I'm still learning. Shaders are hard to learn because there's not very many resources out there for learning them. The Discord bug page. The Discord bug page is the reason why that's not super active and is because it's been so long since I've updated the game. And also, I haven't been checking them because all the bugs reported are so old that they've kind of been fixed. A lot of them have been fixed by now. We played Moonshire on my phone. Most of the glitches was in game over screen. I mean, I don't know how you were able to play it on your phone. What if you make the people get when you hit them in the game? Get mad when you hit them in the game. Yeah, I would love to do that. Having some kind of reaction, because yeah, it's kind of weird that you can just like hit them with stuff, and then they're just like, whatever, I don't care, no big deal. It was an accident. With Luna, how do I feel about Array starting at 1? Oh, we were talking about this earlier. I love it. I shouldn't say I love it. I would say at this point, I kind of like it. I wouldn't say I love it, but it has its pros and cons. How sometimes I like it, how sometimes it works for loops, and sometimes it doesn't. Because, you know, when the index starts at 0, there are still times when you have off by 1 errors. It's like, it's not like the 0 index makes everything easy. There are times when you need to add 1 to the index to offset the off by 1. So there's times when it helps and times when it doesn't, but I'm with you that it's different from most languages, and that alone makes it annoying. The fact that it's different. If all languages were consistent, that would make it easier. But yeah, the fact that it's different makes it a little bit annoying. The functions you have to memorize when making a game are by far way more than doing other program projects, since when are you learning? You pick up on all this over time, and also you don't memorize all of it all at once. You memorize concepts. So let's say you were working in Godot and you were trying to make a character move to the right. You might not remember that there's a function called like apply linear velocity. You might not remember that off the top of your head. But if you Google search like Godot move function, I bet it would come up with like all the relevant ones. And then you pick up on that over time. And then also, as you build more games, this is another reason why I encourage people to make lots of games. Because if you make a game that has movement in it, you'll be able to go back and look at that project and see, how did I make this character move in this game? And you can look at it and remind yourself, oh, I used this function to do it. And then you can just use that same function. Or you'll have these examples and it just gives you extra options. You're enjoying vibe coding my game. I'm learning a ton. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, but I would be cautious because I talk about this on stream a lot too, where vibe coding is a very powerful way of getting code written. It is not a powerful way of learning, because the only way to learn is by challenging yourself. Like, the way that you remember all these function names is because you're typing them out yourself. If an AI was typing them for you, you will never, ever learn them. I shouldn't say never ever, it will take you a lot longer to learn them, because when you have to actually seek out information, internalize it, and then execute it with your hands, you are learning a lot. Compared to when you ask a prompt, how do I do this? And then it tells you, sure, it tells you the answer, but it's the same as if like, if you're at school and someone gives you their homework so you can copy all the answers. Sure, you get an A in the class, but you didn't learn anything. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And that's why vibe coding is like a double-edged sword, because experienced programmers can use it to produce a lot of code very quickly. That's high quality, it can be. But it requires a lot of knowledge and skill to do that in a way that's not sloppy. Like, people say AI slop all the time because it's created by people who don't really know what they're doing. And they will never know what they're doing if they always rely on AI to do it for them. That's the crisis I think we're entering. Is that AI opens up a lot of doors for creation, but it also just it forces it. I shouldn't say. I'm stuttering a lot. It allows you to bypass the learning phase. If you don't need to learn something, people are just going to choose not to learn it. And coding is a skill. It's a skill like painting or like music. You have to practice a lot. And if you were learning how to play piano and you were using an arpeggiator in your production software to do all your complicated licks, then you're not really getting better at piano, even though you're producing some really cool piano licks. You're using a computer to do it for you. You're not getting better at piano, but you're getting better at production of specific song types, but you're not improving your piano skills. And a good pianist will be able to produce better songs than a person who has no musical talent at all. I'm sorry that we always devolve into this conversation of AI and vibe coding and pros and cons. I try to approach this topic as level-headed as possible, because I acknowledge that vibe coding and AI, like these chat agents, they are legitimately very powerful and very good. They are getting better by the month. Like half a year ago, it's way better than it was half a year ago. And I do use them once in a while. But whenever I use this chat function to do something, I am not learning anything from that experience. Maybe it exposes me to some concepts, it gives me some ideas, but it does not improve my coding skills at all. And if someone is going through their entire learning process using AI to do the heavy lifting for them, I really, really worry that coder is going to be lacking by the time they reach the end. And I talked about this last week too, how it reminds me of World of Warcraft. In World of Warcraft and in Final Fantasy XIV, you can just buy a character with max level. You can just create a character and then buy the max level skip. And then you'll have a character at max level, and you can just go do all the high level raids. You can just go do end game content with your friends. But the problem with doing that is you won't have the skills attached to it. All of your friends had played the whole game for hundreds of hours to reach that max level, and they have all the skills, they know all of their abilities, they know how to play the game really, really well, so they can do the high level content. Meanwhile, you just created a character that's high level, you didn't have the skills to go along with it, so it's going to be a lot harder for you to do the high level raids, the high level content, because even though you have the levels to go along with it, you have the stats and the equipment, you don't have the like hard skills. And it's the same with AI coding, where these agents, they make mistakes a lot. Like, I still use them, they're not perfect. They write code that just doesn't work, and it fumbles bugs, it can't figure out certain things, and I have to use my coding knowledge to pick up the slack. And you know, maybe you could say, well, maybe in 5 years, coding AI is gonna be so good that you won't ever need to do that. Maybe, but for now, I think that you should spend this time getting better at coding, so that when the singularity happens, you'll be ready to actually do some coding with your hands. I think that it's going to be a big mistake for people relying solely on AI, when you could be using this time to challenge yourself with projects, to run into problems, to overcome those challenges on your own. You can still Google stuff, you can still use AI to help with problem solving, and to, well, not very much though. Problem solving is the learning process. If AI is doing the problem solving, then you're not going to learn as much. At least when you're Googling things, you have to like sift through a whole bunch of bad information in order to find the good information. That's the other thing, is that when you're coding yourself, you have to read through all of these lines constantly. When you're researching stuff online on Google, you have to go through so many different links and so many different resources to find the information you're looking for, and it requires a lot of critical thinking. Meanwhile, when you're using an AI, it just gives you the answer. There is no challenge involved. Silksong tomorrow? Oh my gosh. It's not for me, it's the day after tomorrow, but I am so excited. It's gonna be amazing. How do you make a text manager? Like, will it show the text on screen over the time? Text manager, like, will it show text on the screen over the time? I guess I can demonstrate this real quick, if that's what you were referring to. What should I make it do? I don't even know what I should have it do, because I need to give it a prompt that it could handle. Here. Refactor this file so all input related logic exists in a new Lua file parallel to main.lua called input.lua that handles all user input stuff, and then main.lua requires that file and calls relevant functions rather than having all of this code stuck in main.lua. So we're gonna let that run for a little bit. We are at the end of the stream. I actually went a little bit over, but I'm still gonna let this run because I think it's cool to demonstrate this. So one thing that you might notice is that in order to actually make this work, I had to write this prompt. And if you don't know what you're doing, writing this prompt is not easy. I had to give it very specific suggestions, otherwise the end result would not be what I want. I'm making a Pong roguelike. Oh yeah, you were talking about that. That sounds awesome. For fun upgrades. Make the paddle move faster, make the ball... Maybe the ball could do more damage, or it could count for 2 points if you score. Maybe there could be like obstacles, or maybe there could be like enemies or bullets that you have to avoid, and then there can be an upgrade that's a shield. Something like that. The stream's getting more and more off script. Every stream ends this way. I think every stream ends with me going on an AI rant. I think it always ends with that. But I can't help it because it's I just like it. Only refactor the main.lua code. No need to edit or search other files. Sometimes you have to That's the other thing is like I noticed that it was starting to look through other files for this baton stuff. I don't want that because I have a dedicated file for baton, and I don't want it to make any edits to that. Yeah, I didn't want to scan for this. So it's really useful having this because it made the Lua file, it edited main.lua, and it's gonna just double check and make sure that it has all the rest of these figured out. I'm active on Love2D too. So many gold games created with Love2D on. Yeah, I do actually browse that subreddit and I check. I think that I actually have the top post of all time on that subreddit. Let me check. Reddit Love2D. It's been a long time since I checked. We're gonna go to top of all time. Okay, so I do not have the top of all time, but I bet we can find it. Oh my god, look! What the heck? Oh my god, look at this! I can't believe this. It's Balatro. It's Balatro before he posted it. This aged well. That's so funny. That's so cool. So the developer of Balatro posted his game to the Love2D subreddit, and it got like the... Wow, that is so cool. That's amazing. I'm so happy about that. Yeah, my post was from way before this. I think we'll find it. Wow. I'm still so happy that we saw that. You know, now that I think about it, I said top of all time, but I'm remembering that I made that post 7 years ago. So it would not be top of all time. Oh no, I'm thinking of a different post. I'm thinking of my Zelda post. Maybe I passed it. Zelda. Yeah, here it is. Oh, that's not as good. I thought I had a lot more. 89 votes. That's nothing. Maybe at the time 89 was a lot. Because I remember when I posted this, it was like the top of the month or something like that. So I think that it just Love2D has grown in the past 6 years. Is the main thing. That's a long time ago. six years ago, I made this post, and it's under my old name. That's really cool, though. Anyway, I think that I'm about to wrap things up for this stream today because we got a lot of stuff done. Oh, we're gonna keep this and make sure that this works. We're gonna make sure that. So it still has all of these things in here. I don't like this at all. Input handlers and input. I'm not a fan of that. See, look, it made input handlers a local function, a local value. Yeah, this sucks. It made. See, don't do that. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of this. Good tongue to end the stream. Yeah, it is. So, long story short, I don't really like what it did because it went against my coding structure. I do not use local. Like, that's not how I do things. It broke the rules. You know what? ChatGPT 5, thumbs down. Not a fan. Not a fan of what it did here. So I'm just gonna undo that. Thankfully, whenever you make changes via AI, you can just... Oh, shoot, I already clicked keep. I think that you can click undo. No, you can't. I just have to undo them manually. I'm going to get rid of input and main. I'm going to keep the rest of the changes because those are good. Bone changes. Someone married AI, I saw that. Alrighty, on that note, I'm going to end stream for today. Thank you so much for being here. Got a lot of folks, a lot of returning people. Got Wolf, Harish, Yoram, Adele, Kemi, Sneebo, Elijah, that one little guy. That's a very good name. But I'm going to go ahead and end stream for the day. Thank you so much for being here. Bellcat, Cooper, Kevin, Jill. I'm sorry I don't know how to pronounce your name. It looks like a J-I-L. We got Rudolph. Rudolph, hi, welcome in. Bub, Future34, Bell and Harish, Storyteller, Sneebo. Thank you so much for being here. I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday. Bye, everyone.